All right, welcome, guys. Welcome to Around the Table. I'm hanging out here in the back room of our conference room, and I'm here with Mark and Heidi Maranell. Heidi might look familiar from being on the worship team, and Mark just started hosting with us a few weeks ago. And so, yeah, we were just talking about the fact that we try to get John Krasinski on. We might need to save this one because there's no one watching yet, but. Try to get John Krasinski on, but we decided to go kind of for the second best is stunt double, right?
Yeah.
Right. Why?
My claim to fame.
Your claim to fame. Why is that?
Well, first in our life together, we lived in South Carolina, and they filmed the movie Leatherheads.
Okay.
Which starred John Krasinski and also starred George Clooney, who was also the director.
Oh, that's
right. Movie based on football in the 1920s. So we wore leather helmets, hence the name of the movie, Leatherheads. And did a casting call for the movie. They were looking for a specific body type because they didn't have 6'5", 310-pound guys playing football back then.
No.
It was people who were working in the mills or working on the mines and stuff and just playing football on a Saturday.
Cool.
So I fit the body type and got casted as an extra with special talent.
What was the special talent? Did they ever tell you? Oh, gotcha. Cool. Well, I wasn't sure. You never know.
I'm a special guy.
You are a special.
You can attest it.
Special guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Mark is famous. He's even more famous now that we're doing Around the Table. People just don't know that yet.
Yes, look at all those viewers out there.
Yeah, they're just piling up. It's Matt and us because I just signed on. So we are rocking it big time. We're definitely going to have to edit this down once we get this finished up.
I don't think so. Just go with it.
Go with it.
Live TV.
That is true. About. That is true. So, as we've shared before, the reality of this, and we decided to stage ourselves appropriately. The rose amongst two thorns, and there's no doubt we can attest to that. So, again, for those of you who are joining on tonight Around the Table, just gives us an opportunity to connect. To have some fun, for you to maybe see some folks and introduce some folks to you from New Life that you may or may not know, to have some fun and just getting to know each other, maybe some things that you may not even know about me. By the way, you never got me the questions of what you're supposed to ask me.
We wanted to put you
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. But then we'll also take some time and talk about faith journeys. What are we learning? What are we seeing within our faith journeys? Not only from our pasts, but also what we're experiencing in the here and now. And so tonight I'm looking forward to being able to have that conversation with Mark and Heidi and really kind of connect with them. And I want to encourage you, as you guys are joining on, to put comments in the chats. We'd love for you to be able to answer the questions that we're presenting, as well as if you have questions yourselves, and being able to engage with you in that way. So I really look forward to tonight and what we have for you. And if you watch this in the next handful of days or weeks or next year, then please put some notes in the chats and maybe we'll follow up in a year from now. So that'll probably hurt our Facebook and YouTube response. Did not follow up in 1 year, kind of thing, right? It happens. So again, we thank you for joining us with Around the Table. Mark and Heidi Maranell with me tonight. We decided to come to, they're from Howard's Grove. We decided to do it here in Plymouth because when we were out at the Harms's house, we weren't sure if that dial-up internet and that well water would really work living out in the sticks there. So we figured we'd keep it going. So
the booming metropolis of Plymouth, that's way more than HG.
Well, I mean, it's nice to see that Plymouth has suburbs. Howard's Grove, Elkhart Lake,
it's sectioned off there. We got the birds section, we got the poets section, the presidents,
the neighborhoods
in Howard,
Forest Hills.
Seriously,
Stonebridge.
What section?
We were in the poets.
We're in the poets.
You're in the poets. Yeah. Why?
So all the road names
are poets.
The different subdivisions and neighborhoods are that's what we first learned when we came to town. Looking for a house to live.
Wow.
Poets. Birds.
Yeah, Stonebridge, all the streets are like out of stone, like named from stones. Yeah.
I learned something new.
There you go.
I had no idea. It kind of makes
like the Harmses live in Forest Hills, so all the road names are trees, like Maple Tree Lane.
Okay. Wow, that is crazy. Yeah, very interesting. See what you learn. Howard, I have a new
Not so
kind
bad,
of,
is it?
that's an endearing quality, I think,
Yeah.
for Howards now. It's even, that's kind of cool. So, all right, let's start out with this question. We already introduced you guys as far as Mark and Heidi Maranell, who live in Howards Grove currently, but where did you guys grow up? Kind of where are you from originally?
Ladies first.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Neenah. Lived there almost all of my life, except for 6 months when we moved to Arizona.
Okay.
And it did not end up working. My dad built homes, and he went down there to go into business with another guy, and it didn't work out. So we lived there during the hottest 6 months of the year. So June to November. So that was fun. Otherwise, always been in Neenah or Appleton. My dad was a builder, so if there was a house that he couldn't sell for a while, we sold the place we were living in and moved into the one.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So, yep, we lived in one house a couple times. Yeah,
that's funny.
We moved a lot.
Okay. Cool.
And so, yeah, my first time really living out of Wisconsin was when we went to college and went to Minnesota. So.
Okay. Mark, where are you from?
So I grew up in Laverne, Minnesota, which is southwest corner of the state, about 7 hours from here on the east coast of Wisconsin.
The east coast of
Wisconsin. And grew up in the same house. My parents still live in the house that I grew up in. Grew up right across the street from the high school. So, yeah.
Nice. What's kind of when you're thinking about Laverne and kind of where you grew up, what's something that not as cool as what Howards Grove has as far as naming the streets, but what's something kind of unique or that stands out to you about Laverne, Minnesota?
Oh, boy.
A couple things, actually. So we're the only county in the state to not have a natural lake.
Oh, really? And it's the land of 10,000 lakes.
Yeah.
And the one county couldn't figure out a natural lake. Just boom, stop right there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
The other thing, many communities have like a festival that they have. So we have what's called Buffalo Days.
Oh, sure.
Out on the edge of the prairie, a lot of buffalo back in the day with the natives.
Okay. Yep.
So we actually have a state park outside of town that has a herd of buffalo, but just a big parade. They have arts in the park, so all these craft people come and set up their tents.
Sure.
And then they have a buffalo chip throwing contest.
I know what buffalo chips are, but I'm curious, what are buffalo chips?
Buffalo chips are dried buffalo hoo-ha. Dung, yes.
Buffalo dung, and you're throwing them.
Yes, they're hardened, and incidentally, it's like, I would equate it to cornhole.
No.
Because they throw it into a toilet.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's like so how
they
big?
do for fun there.
Exactly. How big are the buffalo? I'm thinking buffalo chips are like that big.
Yeah, they're about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever made a mistake of picking up a buffalo chip that wasn't completely dry?
It's certified by someone that picks up the dried buffalo dung, and yeah. So I never partook in that activity.
Why not?
Never could get a team together, nor would I want to. So
that's awesome. So then let's just fast forward just a little bit, and then we'll come back. So then, how did you guys end up meeting?
So we met at Northwestern College in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm wait for it. Wait for it. No. Oh wow. Okay. That's great self-control right there.
So we were actually we actually were at the same registration day.
Okay.
Never talked to each other.
As freshmen, I'm sorry.
As freshmen
coming
in.
Yep.
She did catch my eye though. Like I was like, okay. All right. I'll just
take note. Did you take out a little notebook and said, "Okay, we'll just jot this one down"?
Then we actually ended up being in a class called Christian Discipleship.
Sure.
And
first semester.
Yep, first semester. She would always walk past. Anyways, I don't know.
So who asked who first?
We had some mutual friends.
Mutual friends, and then we just started taking long walks on campus.
Around Lake Johanna?
No, but down by
our
Lake
section
Johanna.
of Lake Johanna.
So real quick, we won't spend a lot of time. And you did really good, Mark. I got to give you props. So they just obviously mentioned that they went to Northwestern College. On the other side of the lake was Bethel College, or now Bethel University, where both Teresa and I graduated from, and where Jada is at right now. And so there's always there's two Christian colleges on either end of the lake, and there's always a little bit of poking and fun back and forth, always in fun. And so it's always neat to be able to kind of reminisce about the times. I graduated a whole lot earlier. What would be the earlier than they did? So
what year did you graduate?
I graduated in '97.
Okay, so we started in '98.
Yeah.
All in '98.
Yeah. So I guess it wasn't too bad. Not too bad. So at least it was the same decade.
Yeah.
and century and millennium. So that's a good thing.
So
yeah.
we just started hanging out, and I don't know. Do you want to add anything to that?
Then he asked me out, and neither one of us had a car, so we walked to the ever romantic first date restaurant of Olive Garden.
Yes,
Nice.
we did.
Nice. Right around the corner, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea for you, though, because it's bottomless salad and breadsticks. So if you had to.
And he's on the football team, so
Right.
it's definitely a good deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Sure.
Well, I appreciate you guys sharing. Again, we're here with Mark and Heidi Maranell with Around the Table, and just taking the opportunity to connect with them a little bit and kind of throw out a question to you as well as to Mark and Heidi. Kind of looking back where you both grew up, Heidi growing up in the Fox Cities area, Nina specifically, and Mark over in Laverne, Minnesota. As you look back, what was one of your favorite childhood activities? Just as you look back, things that you enjoyed to do growing up as a child.
You want me to go?
Sure.
I'll go first. This is going to sound odd, but I really did enjoy another festival our town had was called Hot Dog Night.
You guys are rocking it. Rocking the festivals.
Yep.
So middle of June, always a hot dog night. All the merchants in town or businesses would grill up hot dogs and brats and stuff and give them out for free. It's a big community event. Just kind of walk around. It's now since evolved, I guess. I haven't been back there for a while, but now they have wiener dog races.
Sweet.
Yeah, so
That would
everybody
be pretty
brings their
cool.
dachshunds down. And
See, I would show up for that.
Okay.
I would definitely show up for
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
But when you're a kid, you love hot dogs, and you just
Absolutely.
go, and it's free. So
What is it? Eddie Chestnut? No, what's the hot dog champion of the world? Chestnut. I know his last name's
It's
Chestnut.
disgusting.
Yeah. Did he ever show up? I mean,
No.
wouldn't you want to invite him?
I
Or would he eat all the hot
Probably.
dogs?
maybe.
Maybe. Okay. All right. So you enjoyed the festivals, specifically the hot dog
Yeah.
festival.
Well, just the community that we had.
Cool.
I mean, and then just being active with my friends outside.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. Heidi, what were you?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the same thing, just being outside with my friends. We lived in a great neighborhood, and one of my best friends was just 2 houses down. And
Sure.
so just outside playing every day, her house, I mean, just back and forth. We were at one house or the other,
Yep,
you know,
exactly.
that's where our parents
Yeah.
knew to look for us. And it was just always outside, especially in the
Cool.
summer. And if we're talking about festivals, I guess I like the 4th of July
Okay.
at the Riverside Park in Nina.
Riverside
That
Park,
was always
absolutely.
a big thing. Yep. Going down there on the 3rd and the 4th and just hanging out. And
Cool.
I mean, now people, reserve their spots 3 days ahead, but
Oh my gosh.
it's crazy.
Jeez. Cutthroat now.
Yeah. We used to live on that
experienced
side of Nina, so we would ride our bikes down there.
Sure.
And so that was always a fun
Cool.
thing to do as a family too.
Yeah, I remember it's interesting. I think it wasn't until we were in high school where we did start doing like if it was a 4th of July parade or
Mhm.
something. I grew up, born in Green Bay, but grew up in Peshtigo. Great Peshtigo fire. That's kind of what our notoriety is. And a funny argument that my wife Teresa, who's from Chicago, and I have all the time because the fires were on the same day. But that's another conversation when we do Around the Table with her. She doesn't know that yet, so I know she's not watching. She's got a gig tonight, but I remember this one time we did it as a youth group fundraiser, is that we were the Trojan pooper scooper uppers. So we walked around in togas, and we had a garbage can on a dolly with shovels, and we followed the horses wherever they went. And if they dropped a load, we picked it up and put it in the garbage. So it's kind of like combining all the festivals and buffalo chip throwing and everything. That's one of the things I remember in high school. We raised money for our youth group. So I figured, hey, why not make a little money for youth group? But I remember a lot of the things too, of just being able to connect with friends, always riding around, hanging out, doing something. But I think when it comes right down to it, we lived on a road that behind us was just this endless amount of woods. And I would just love going back there and just finding a little area, trying to make a fort, hanging out, inviting friends back there, and just kind of being out in the woods. It wasn't anything great. I mean, we were still in city limits, but it just happened to be woods throughout, and it was just always a blast just to go back there. I remember during the winters going cross country skiing, and just trying to make my own path through there. Just one of those things. Living over on McCaig Street, just definitely a fond memory. So. Well, let's transition just a little bit. Over the last handful of weeks, we've been talking about our faith journeys, and specifically looking at what does it mean to engage with God. And we talked a little bit of how we engage with God through prayer. And then we talked a little bit about how we engage with God through Scripture, and had the opportunity to connect with the Harmses, and then last week with Jamie Haupt, and just really hearing from Jamie of what it meant to connect with God through very difficult challenges. And for him being able to get to within years of retirement and losing his job, and being over a year without employment, and just trying to figure out, God, what are you doing in all this? And that even though that there were struggles within it, he was able to see God's hand at work, and continue to lean into him even though it was hard. And really wanting to be able to hear the different stories to connect with how it relates in the everyday. Not only for those that we interview, but for you as well. And so I'm just curious to kind of a starting point for the both of you. What was your interaction of being introduced to God, or introduced to the God reality and faith? What did that look like for each of you?
Well, I grew up in a Christian home, and was in the nursery right after I was born. So my first introduction really was being raised in a Christian home and Sunday school. So, and then I also went to a Christian elementary school in Neenah. My mom worked there, and so that was a very integral part of our life. So it just felt like if we weren't at home, we were at church or school, and it was all very interfaith related. And so that's my first.
Okay, yeah, let's just start there. Mark, what about you?
So I grew up in a Catholic home. Not that that's not Christian, but
it's.
And I had Sunday school, I had Wednesday night church, CCD, whatever it's called now. I would say, however, though, my first encounter with God in a relationship level would have been my senior year of high school.
Okay.
When I started to go to Awana at our First Baptist Church in town, that one of my good friends attended.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the one that actually encouraged me to go to Northwestern.
Oh, really?
The pastor there. So I also started going to Sunday night service, or Sunday morning service. Got involved with their puppet team, and it was the first time that a youth group leader gave me a Bible. We had an old King James Bible in our house, to thee, thou, all of that. But after the second week I went to youth group, the youth group leader said, "Here's a Bible. I still have it. It's all marked up. I still use it." And So yeah, that would be my senior year of high school.
Okay. And it kind of leads into the next question. I'm curious, even for you, Heidi, to piggyback on it. But you had mentioned, Mark, that you kind of grew up within the Catholic faith and was introduced to God within that. But it sounds as though, would you say that your senior year of high school where it became more personal for you within that?
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. It was just different with the youth pastor and the pastor just talking about God in a relational way,
right?
As opposed to, no disrespect to the Catholic faith at all or anything, but growing up, it was more of an authoritarian type message on each given Sunday,
sure.
And didn't feel relational. Relational was going to confession and talking to a priest,
sure.
As opposed to my senior year, relational was getting down on your knees and talking to God right there.
Sure.
So
cool. No, yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. What about you, Heidi? Because I'm similar in the fact that I also grew up in a Christian home. That was the basis, the foundation. I didn't know anything else. It was church 3 days a week. I mean, you also went to a Christian school and stuff. And so, what do you think for you that it was more personal versus just really living off of your parents' faith?
Right. So in 6th grade at the Christian school, we started having kind of a more in-depth Bible class, and we were taught, different ways you could do devotions and different things like that. So that was kind of my first real, it's more than praying or memorizing a Bible verse type of thing. And I had accepted the Lord when I was 4. But I don't remember. But I came home from Sunday school. I told my mom. My Sunday school teacher knew. So,
sure.
But when I was in 6th grade, I rededicated my life. Like, God, this is something I want to do. And,
sure.
So that was a big thing. And then I would say it really grew a lot in college, just because of all the classes we have to take.
She was
Bible.
dating me too. So.
So that
God,
was
I need help.
Why she needed more of God?
Probably.
So yeah, just learning that. And then there's plenty of times in our life I can think of where it's clearly Him working.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a moment that you see or kind of connect with that rises to the top for you on that?
Well, there's a few of them. A big one that I always think of is when we were in South Carolina, and we wanted to. We were going to come back. We had moved there in June, and then Mark's a teacher. We never said what we do, but Mark's a teacher.
I never forgot that question.
So
impromptu.
We I'm distracted. It does look amazing, Sam.
Thank
It is
you,
distracting.
Samuel. Appreciate it.
I was really struggling. We had Eden, who was 2 at the time, and then I was pregnant with Carter. He was born in April of the year that we were there, but I just wasn't feeling any connection. I was a stay-at-home mom with a 2-year-old, and Mark knew people from school, students, and coworkers and things, and basically it was the grocery store and library story time for Eden and I. So
you didn't have any friendship connections,
right? I mean, we went to church, but it just
we kind of bounced around. We bounced around from church to church. We stayed at one for a little while, and then we're like, let's try this one. And we didn't really get plugged in.
We didn't feel connected.
Sure.
Yeah. So by spring of that year, I was like, I want to go back to Wisconsin. Our families were here, and we were far away. We were looking for an adventure, and it was an adventure, but it didn't pan out the way we kind of thought and hoped. So, but we didn't want to come back here without Mark having a job. And it's not, first of all, it's not super easy to get a job.
They're like dinosaurs.
Anywhere.
They stay forever. Right?
They do. Right.
They don't move.
Right.
Yeah. So that, and we were on the other side of the country, so
Sure.
it wasn't like he could just stop over for an interview. So we were really praying, and my mom was working at our church at that time, and
Hold on, you hold that thought for a second. My family just texted me and they need my car keys, and I locked the door. Sorry. Let me see it right here.
This is live.
This is live.
This is what live TV is all about.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So before she gets to that, I had accepted a job offer in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, at a middle school, but it was only 50%.
Okay.
So
we had that to fall back on. So we were struggling to find a job, and my mom was also sort of the wedding coordinator at our church, and she helped with a wedding that was a principal of a high school close by. And so she was like, well, I heard they have a PE job open up. I'll just put in a good word for you.
There you go.
So also during this time, my dad had just retired the year before and had come down with a fever that they could not figure out, just wasn't feeling well, and was getting really, really tired. And my parents owned 12 acres, and so really having a hard time keeping up with the yard work and stuff. And so Mark ended up getting an interview, flew back, had an interview in Winneconne, a little town outside of Oshkosh. And so
sorry, another inside joke. Keep going.
He got home and found out he did not get the job. And
well, there was an interesting event.
Right.
So I interviewed on a Friday, flew back on Tuesday the following week, got a call. I was supposed to get a call to see what was going on. Got a call from the principal, mentioned that the wheels of education move a little slower in the summer. We're still tracking down references. We'll let you know by Thursday. Thursday came and went, no call. So we're like, what's going on? We had a moving truck, we had a truck rented. We're going to get packed up the following week.
Yeah, because we decided, my parents were like, just, you can come move in with us. They have a large house because they needed help, and I'm sure what was going on with my dad. So we were going.
Just get back to us.
God, we're going.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I get a call Friday morning, and was told by the principal that they had offered the position to another person, and they've accepted. So got the bad news. We were crushed.
Mm-hmm.
We did Skype back then, with her parents, and we're like, that's when they said, yeah, just move in with us. I knew I could get subbing, and get my leg in a school somewhere.
And I had just had another baby.
Yes. So
we had a newborn too.
So we go on a family walk. We come back, and my phone starts ringing. This is 7:00 South Carolina time.
Okay.
So 6:00 here.
Friday night.
So
that morning you don't have the job, don't know what you're going to do, talk with your parents.
Yep.
Now that night, Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night at 7:00, I get a call. Caller ID says from Wisconsin. Do I pick this up? Yeah.
Sure.
It's the principal from Winneconne, saying that, well, I want to know if you're still interested in the position, because the person that we offered it to had accepted and has now declined. But I need to ask you a question first. Are you moving back?
Yeah. Are you committed?
Are you committed to moving back? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, the position is yours. Cool. if you're still interested.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge God moment for us, I think, like together.
Right.
Was, and got us back and
Sure.
the Midwest.
Yeah.
Another one is how we got over here
Yes.
to Howard's Grove, because
To
that
Howard's
was
Grove.
totally unexpected.
Yeah.
Sure.
You want me to go with that one?
Go
Okay.
All the different ways we can see God at work.
That's
Right?
right.
When you
So-
think there's an obstacle, it can
Mhm.
turn into an opportunity.
Right.
Right.
So by this time, I am teaching at a different school. I'm in at Watoma High School, and was basically thinking I was going to finish my career out in Watoma. I was satisfied with what I was doing.
Mhm.
I was happy with where I was working, the staff, students, all that. The downside to that whole position was we lived in Wapaka, which was a half hour away from Watoma. So when the kids would get older, it was going to be, do we send them to Wapaka? Do we have them come to school with me in Watoma? Whatever.
The other part we haven't said is that you're a coach.
Yes, I am a coach. Which
Coach. What do you coach?
What?
What do you coach?
I coach football. Thank you. And I also coach track and field.
Sure. Okay.
So I get a call in the summer after my 5th year teaching in Watoma from the principal I had at Winneconne. He and I had a good relationship. He had since moved on to Kewaskum to be a superintendent there. He wanted to know if I was looking for a position at all, and if so, he knew of a school district that was looking for a phy ed and a health teacher. Do you want his name? Do you want me to pass your name on? I said, sure. So I got a call from the superintendent at Howard's Grove, and we had a lengthy conversation about the community and the school, and again, wasn't looking, almost headhunted, recruited to be able to come over here. So,
but at the same time, like, we really wanted to be someplace where the kids were in the same district. Like, it was just.
Yeah. So, I called her up first and like, so should I do that? And she's like, sure, why not?
I had just taken a promotion at the bank I was working at, and I was like, life is good. And
yeah, that's the other
sure,
piece.
throw your name in, whatever.
She had just started working again, and we're starting to establish some roots in the Wapaka community, and then we get this call. So I ended up interviewing the following week, and was the last person, specifically put at the last person to be interviewed.
Oh, really?
Had my interview, got a quick tour of the school, got marched right down to the superintendent's office, and was offered the position right there.
Oh, really? So they were anticipating, as long as it went well, they were going to go.
Right. Well, as long as I wasn't crazy or anything like that. Even though
still waiting.
Crazy.
I was just saying, we're still waiting for the results on that one.
You come to a game on Friday night in Howard's Grove, you'll see some craziness. All right, so.
But even before he came over to the interview, it was like, okay, what if by chance they offer you something? Okay, God, you would have to really come through on. We would need money to move.
Mm-hmm. So I had signed my contract for Watoma, and it was in July. So there are certain most school districts now have like a buyout clause of your contract if you signed. So I had.
It was $3,000.
Yeah,
to get out of it.
To get out of it.
Oh, really?
Because they had paid into our HSA account.
Oh,
and
sure.
There was a lot of things that
they're gonna have to pay that
out.
$3,000. They have to give us money to move, and I can't even remember what the third thing was, but it was like just never gonna happen.
Sure.
Yeah. And it happened.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
It was. Yeah.
Cool.
And I just remember saying, well, if that's where God wants us, He'll make it happen. And within 4 days, we were moving. Our house was for sale.
Really?
Yeah.
4 days.
But then the crazy. So God continued to work though, because we didn't have a house in Howard's Grove.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so football starts in August, and that was one of the things. I was going to be an assistant football coach.
Okay.
So I commuted in August.
Oh, really?
From
It's 2 hours.
Yeah, it's
from
2
where we
hours.
live to over to.
Um, and there's no easy way to get around the lake.
Not.
There's not. So,
Mhm.
so there was a couple times I stayed at the head football coach's house
Sure.
because we had an early morning practice and I didn't want to drive back and forth. But for the most part, we drove. And then, so we were looking for a place to whether rent or buy.
Sure.
There wasn't really anything that we were interested in buying, so we were looking at renting. Well, there was this one house that was posted in Howard's Grove, and the price to rent was out of our range.
Sure.
Like way out of our range.
Then, God provides, and the owner of that house decided to bump the rent down. So we decided to give him a call, and I had met with him at the house after practice one night before I came home, and just had some questions for him and said, asked if he would consider getting it down even further.
Really?
Because the price that they had included was going to be snow removal and lawn care.
Mm.
And I said, hey, I can do the snow removal and the lawn care if we can get this down a little bit more.
Sure.
And he was like, I think we can make that work. Let me talk to because he was a manager of the property. And it worked.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved Labor Day weekend.
Oh, no way. The school starting on Tuesday.
The school started Tuesday. So the kids, it was so crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It was
game on Friday, move the weekend, school on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
It was so crazy because we got the kids enrolled and pictures, and it was just a whirlwind, but it happened, and we're here, and we're here for a reason. There's no doubt about it.
And how long have you guys been here?
Finished up my third year teaching, so 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And you feel because one of the things that we talked about even at the start of this whole kind of story was one of the first times that you saw kind of it. I shouldn't say first times, but one of the things that kind of came to the top of, hey, God, kind of what's going on? I'm feeling just a little unrest. How are you going to work? Was you were feeling disconnected in South Carolina and just this unrest, and then you move into Wisconsin, and then you make the move from Waupaca over to here. Do you feel as though that, hey, Howard's Grove and what God's been doing in the last handful of years, that kind of that answered prayer and that longing of connection has begun to, how have you seen that take place?
Yeah, absolutely. I think pretty soon after we moved to Howard's, we're like, this is where we want to be. We've just met really great people in Howard's, and the school, the kids have all made great friends, and we just feel really comfortable, and
we got connected real fast. And it helped too, I think, especially for Heidi, that she also worked at the high school for a short period of time.
Okay.
So you were able to get connected with students and then families of those students because she was working in the guidance office.
Sure.
And that to me was like an answer to prayer, because I know like where we've been in our journey from the moment we met in that Northwestern and getting married. I guess I've seen her not have connection. There was in Minneapolis because we had our friends there from college, and then she worked at a church there. But when we moved to South Carolina and then moved back, so when we moved back to Neenah with her parents, she had the connection and I didn't.
Right. Yeah. Good. Yeah. That's what I was going to go. Yeah.
And then we've kind of moved out on our own again to like Waupaca, and there was that same thing. I was connected at school, and she was homeschooling our kids at the time.
Sure.
And so it was hard. And now like we're here in the East Coast, and it's, I don't know. I guess I'm excited to grow old with my gal here.
Sure. In Howard's and right,
Yeah.
exactly, in the grove. Yeah. But part of that, and you kind of alluded to it, is just not just having individual connections with your groups of friends or whatnot, but being able to have family connections. And so not only do you see it with you guys, with couples or with the schools, and now you're working at the bank and whatnot, but you see it as a family. I mean, so Eden and Carter and Delaney all have relationships with other families and stuff. And how have you seen that value within life?
Well, when we moved to Howard's Grove, so at the end of the first school year, when we were attending Crossroads, but just not feeling a whole lot of connection there either, and we had tried to be in a small group there, but it just we struggled with the night it met. It was hard to get our kids to youth group, and just wasn't working. And I just remember saying to Mark, like, we need to start our own life group because this isn't working at church. We're doing life with the people in town, and whether they go to the same church or not, we know a lot of them have the same belief. Like, we all stand in the same place. And what if we started a life group together there, building a life with the people in our town? And so that's what we did. We just thought of 4 other couples and reached out and said, do you want to start a group with us? Cool. We just want to do this. And so that's been really good. Our kids love getting together. And there's a wide age gap.
Sure.
But they love it, and I think they've all really bonded. And
yeah. Oh, for sure. I think seeing our kids have friends and us knowing their friends and their parents is another answer to prayer. I mean, when our kids were homeschooled, they didn't really have a lot of social interaction with other people. And, now that we've kind of planted roots here in Howard's Grove and seeing them develop relationships with other people their age, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate even the way that you shared it, Heidi, of being able to say, hey, what does it look like to make connections with people within our neighborhood, within our hometown? And what does it look like to do life together? And so many times, and like I mentioned earlier, as I grew up in the church and I went to a Christian college and have been a pastor majority of my life. And you look at the plans and you look at the desires and you say, how did Jesus do it? And so many times we take what Jesus did and we put it into a program, and we got to make sure you have small groups and life groups and Bible studies and Sunday school and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, what's resonated at my heart and what I continue to go back to and see is just like, what does it mean to do life with the people that you're around? And so even within the context for us, we've done a variety of different life groups, a variety of different small groups, and people come and people go in a variety of different ways. It's just like those on purpose opportunities. And if it's with the folks that you're coaching with, if it's the folks that you're sitting in the stands with watching either sports or theater or concerts or classrooms or even the fact that you have an opportunity with your coworkers at the bank or whatever, is just like having that attention to be able to say, who are the people that are in my life that God may be having this intersection for a reason. Now you guys were on purpose about it with 4 people, 4 couples, 4 families. But I even being able to have that dream and that prayer of, man, what does it look like to take 4 or 5 of these couples and then begin to multiply, and just say, hey, we can have a greater impact and a greater connection of what God's doing, not only with Howard's, but within Plymouth and Elkhart and Kiel and across the board, Adele, and whatever the case may be. And so I really appreciate you guys sharing it in that context, because not only is it something that you've seen, being able to have that connection, to be able to experience that faith growth, but I think it also just really echoes the desires of our heart as a church to say, this is where the the life happens within that. So thank you guys very much for that. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out with us for Around the Table. I'm going to give these guys a chance to bounce some questions off of me. They have not told me what the questions are, so we'll see. I don't want to go to that kind of the token pass, but I will do my best to answer them. But what I do want to encourage you with as we kind of wrap up with these questions is, are there any prayer requests that you have? Because we do want to take a moment to be able to pray for you and with you. And so if you have any prayer requests, please put those in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get to those here in a second. So questions that you...
I didn't think of one.
What has been your struggle during the past few months? What has been your biggest struggle the past few months?
That's a good one.
That is a good one. So what's been the biggest...
Oh boy, there it is.
The biggest struggle for the last few months with the COVID stuff and everything that's there. I think there's been a couple of them in different ways. I think one of them that kind of really rose again within my life is that I have a strong tendency, Sam would say, like almost all the time, to stay in my head. It's just like I'm always processing. I'm always, what do I see? How can I handle it? What do I need to be able to do? And there's necessity to that. But what happens is that sometimes I will cut off the connect to the heart. And so just like, I'll just stay in my head and I won't have that heart connect. And we're really, even as we're going to be talking on Sunday, the epicenter of life and how are we tending to the heart. And what I noticed in the season is that even though I didn't mind the different challenges that were before us, I would say probably early to mid-May, I was getting so worn out in my mind, is that I couldn't shut my mind off. I would be processing things all day and answering questions, tending to things. When should we reopen? What's going to be the safe time? What does all that look like? How do we need to do this differently? Is that when I would get home, as much as I would try, I had hard time shutting it off. And so I think there was a moment or two, especially in a different meeting, where just like, I'm worn out, because I was worn out within my mind and stuff. And so I think that's been one of them. I think the other thing is that even though, because we're essential, even though I kept on continue to go to work and continue to have different engagements and whatnot, and having some of those relational connects, I really had a hard time not being relationally involved. And so my heart was very heavy for those who were even more isolated than I was, because I did have some connects in a variety of different ways with so many different people, but just like, I just want to be with people, and stuff. And so I think that was probably a change that was hard during this season. So
on the flip side, what's been your greatest triumph over this time that we've been in?
Yeah, so my greatest, I'll go with celebration, triumph. Yeah, you do have me stumped.
Because I feel like we always, I tend to think negatively about things and looking at, oh man, woe is me, this is happening to me. But I think it's important for us to, man, what has been good about this? Yeah. Can I say for us?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think for us, what's been good about this is we've been able to slow down.
Yes.
As a family. So with a freshman, a seventh grader, and a fifth grader, that season of life for us is busy. Like our calendar, all school year, there was pretty much everything, something every night.
Sure.
That whether I was involved in or the kids were involved in or whatever. And I think this time has allowed us to slow down.
Sure.
And almost reconnect with our family better.
Yeah.
That's why I would say that's a blessing from this whole, all the stuff that's going on. So.
And I was telling Sam before worship team practice a little while ago that another silver lining to it for me as a parent is seeing my kids participate with the youth group devotions in the morning. They wouldn't be able to do devotions at 9 a.m. on the computer at school. So it has been very cool to see them log on and be able to share and look forward to that each day and have that extra growth opportunity.
Cool. No, that's very cool. And I would definitely piggyback that. I would say it would probably be definitely the Family Connect. Even though this has been very hard on Jada, having to leave college and come home and finish up her second semester of her sophomore year here, missing all the friends and the relationships there. I've so enjoyed having her home and seeing the relationship between her and Caleb. They've always been close, but they're 5 years apart. And so it's more been like big sister, little brother, and he just kind of totes around, whatever. Well, now he's the big brother because he's so much bigger than she is. And they goof around and there's so much more connection. So there's just a joy of seeing that, the different times that we're able to have as family. I think from a ministry standpoint, just seeing, I mean, we've heard the different cliches. The church has left the building and the church isn't closed. It's just online or whatever the case may be. Of our touch point, even though it's just been digitally, has grown in different ways, and the different conversations that we're having with people within the community that otherwise may not be coming to church in our physical building or engaging with us online or in different ways. And so just the fact that has been a blessing of being able to see the light and love of Christ continue on in the midst of this. But as you were saying that, Heidi, I would say last night was probably one of the highlights. We were all kind of getting ready to go to bed. Well, at least I was getting ready to go to bed around 10 o'clock. The kids do not keep my schedule. And Jada was like, Dad, I want us to pray together as a family. I'm like, okay, yeah, great. What do you want to do? Well, I just want to take time to pray for our country. I'm like, okay. So we called Caleb down from upstairs playing Xbox, and he's like, what are we doing? What are we praying today? And we just all hopped on our bed. And Jada started the prayer, and it was extensive prayer. It was a beautiful prayer. It was a heartfelt prayer. And she gets done, and Caleb goes, well, what else are we supposed to pray for?
She covered it all.
She covered it all. But so even in the genuineness of that he took time and prayed for whatever was in his heart. And then Teresa prayed, and then I prayed. And it was just like having that impromptu from her. Now it's like, Dad wants us to pray. We're supposed to pray. The pastor wants to pray. It's just like, and as much as you may think that the pastor's family should be, that we like are on 24-hour prayer times all the time, we're not. And so having this initiation by her and just seeing the stirring, because we were having conversations all week, and she was in Minnesota last weekend. We had the conversation on Friday. Hey, do you need me to come and pick you up because of all the chaos that was going on and stuff. And so just seeing the shift of this is what's being overwhelming in the press and with people that we know, including my sister, and being on the doorstep of it, and that unrest within her heart said, hey, let's come together and pray. And so it was pretty powerful moment within that. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, anything else? You guys good?
We're great.
Yeah, we're great.
Yeah.
Better than we deserve.
That's his classic tagline. So whenever I ask Mark, hey, how you doing? Better than I deserve. So Matt, you're exactly right. Praying with family is powerful, and being able to have your children pray with you in different ways is an incredible blessing to hear. I mean, I go back to what Jesus said. It's just like have the faith of a child. And it's so very true. So what we want to do is we do want to close our time with prayer. And we thank you for joining us tonight. And if there's anything that you do have in the last moments here, be able to please jot that down. And Sam, I appreciate that. You were too kind. But we'll just stop over at the house and hang out. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Would either one of you or both of you mind praying?
Yeah, I'll pray. Are you going to, or you want just me?
You go ahead.
Okay.
All right. Mark, why don't you close this up with prayer?
Lord Jesus, thank you so much for this opportunity that you gave us to meet together and to get to know each other a little bit more. And we want to lift up our country to you right now and the turmoil that's going on across the nation. We ask that you would just bring it to our hearts to love others, no matter where they come from, what their background is. We ask that you would help us to be aware of how other people feel during certain situations, and that you would help us to rise above and draw on your love and presence to love others. Thank you for Pastor Aaron. As you would continue to give him strength and wisdom during this time to help counsel other people, and to just his family as well, that you would strengthen them. And I pray for New Life, that you would allow us to feel your presence digitally when we're watching online on Sundays or able to meet with people, our New Life family. We're anxious to get back together, but we also know that you're wherever we are at. Thank you for this time. We give everything to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Heidi, thank you very much for hanging out. For those of you who are still on and connected with New Life, at least locally, as Mark referenced within our prayer, we are going to start reopening this Sunday. I guess encourage you in a couple of different ways. One, please, if you are healthy, and this week, if your last name starts with A through G, I think it is. I don't remember. Then we want to make sure that you're able to be able to come within that. We also want to know that we're going to continue online. That's not going to change. We're going to continue to keep that service going for the life of what we have right now. So if you're not comfortable in coming back, if you don't feel as though that you're healthy in coming back, please engage with us online. We want to be able to serve you the best that we can. And we're going to continue to trust the steps that God has. We believe that this is wise and prudent in the way that we can love one another and love our community, and we are trusting that in due time we'll be able to be back together. Matt, thanks for affirming that A through G. Also want to let you know that we had talked about kicking off our regional groups as another alternative to be able to connect relationally and spiritually on a Sunday morning. We are going to do that, but we will not be kicking them off this week. Our regional groups will be starting Father's Day weekend with at least one, possibly two, but please stay in tune for that, and we'll give you more information. I know that Sam and I will be working on a video tomorrow to give you a little more information on that. So again, thank you guys. We appreciate you hanging out with us tonight with Around the Table, and we'll look forward to next week. Grace and peace.